A racist humiliated a black musician. John Lennon did that, and the show stopped. New York City, 1973, the Village Vanguard. A legendary jazz club, steeped in history, its walls echoing with the ghosts of countless performances. But tonight, the air was thick with something more than just music and cigarette smoke. It was thick with tension. John Lennon sat at a small, unassuming table in the back, Yoko Ono by his side. He wasn't there as a performer, but as a patron, seeking solace in the raw, improvisational brilliance of live jazz. He was in his lost weekend period, a tumultuous time marked by separation from Yoko, heavy drinking, and a restless search for meaning. On stage, a brilliant, young black saxophonist named Marcus Blue Dixon poured his soul into his instrument. His music was raw, passionate, a fusion of bebop and blues, and a testament to the vibrant, often challenging spirit of New York's jazz scene. Marcus was a rising star, but he was also a black man in America in the early 70s, a time when racial tensions, though simmering beneath the surface, could erupt at any moment. The club, usually a sanctuary of artistic expression, was not immune to the prejudices of the outside world. John, despite his own personal struggles, was acutely aware of the racial dynamics at play. He had always been an outspoken advocate for civil rights, his songs often carrying messages of equality and unity. He recognized the talent, the vulnerability, and the quiet dignity of Marcus Dixon. As Marcus reached a particularly soulful crescendo, his eyes closed in concentration. A harsh, slurred voice cut through the music from a table near the front. "Hey, boy, is play something I can understand, something with a beat." The voice belonged to a man named Frank O'Connell, a burly, middle-aged businessman, clearly intoxicated and radiating an ugly, casual racism. His words hung in the air, a jarring discord in the harmonious club. Marcus flinched, his eyes snapping open. The music faltered, a note hanging unfinished. The other musicians on stage exchanged uneasy glances. The club's usual buzz died down, replaced by a collective, uncomfortable silence. John Lennon, from his table in the back, felt a familiar cold fury rise within him. He had witnessed countless acts of casual racism throughout his life, but to see it directed at an artist in the sanctity of a performance was an affront he could not ignore. What happened next would last mere seconds, but those seconds would reveal the unwavering integrity of a rock and roll icon, the raw power of a single voice against prejudice, and the profound impact of standing up for what is right. A racist had humiliated a black musician, and John Lennon was about to do something that would make the entire show stop. John Lennon's journey to becoming an outspoken advocate for civil rights was deeply rooted in his working-class Liverpool upbringing and his innate sense of justice. He had always questioned authority, challenged norms, and championed the underdog. His early exposure to American rhythm and blues, music created by black artists, had profoundly shaped his artistic sensibilities. He recognized the raw emotion, the truth, and the revolutionary spirit in that music, long before it was widely accepted in mainstream Britain. When the Beatles first came to America, they famously refused to play segregated venues, a quiet but powerful statement against racial discrimination. John's songs, particularly in his solo career, often carried explicit messages of peace, equality, and social justice. He marched for civil rights, spoke out against racism, and used his immense platform to amplify the voices of the marginalized. By 1973, during his lost weekend, John was grappling with personal demons, but his core values remained intact. He was still the man who believed in Imagine, in a world without prejudice. He was still the man who would instinctively stand up against injustice. Marcus "Blue" Dixon, the saxophonist, represented the very essence of the struggle John admired. A black artist, pouring his heart into a genre born from the black experience, striving for recognition in a world that often sought to diminish him. Marcus had faced countless microaggressions, subtle slights, and overt acts of racism throughout his life. He had learned to navigate them with dignity, to let his music speak for itself. But the public humiliation, the casual dismissal of his art and his humanity, cut deep. Frank O'Connell, the racist, was a product of his time and his own ingrained prejudices. He saw a black man on stage playing that kind of music and felt entitled to assert his perceived superiority. His intoxication merely lowered his inhibitions, allowing his ugliness to spill out into the public space. He likely had no idea that one of the most famous men in the world was sitting in the back, witnessing his bigotry. The atmosphere in the village vanguard was now charged. The unspoken question hung heavy. Would anyone challenge O'Connell? Or would the moment pass, leaving Marcus Dixon to absorb the insult and continue his performance, as so many black artists had been forced to do for generations? John Lennon, from his table, felt the weight of that question. He saw Marcus's face, the flicker of pain, the struggle for composure. He heard the uncomfortable silence of the other patrons, the unspoken complicity of inaction. He knew he couldn't let it stand. He couldn't let that kind of hatred go unchallenged, not in his presence, not when he had a voice that could cut through the noise. The music had stopped, but a different kind of performance was about to begin. A performance of conviction, of courage, and of an unwavering belief in human dignity. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. That helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. John Lennon rose slowly from his table. He didn't shout. He didn't make a grand gesture. He simply stood, his presence, even in his lost weekend dishevelment, commanding attention. The few people who noticed him immediately recognized the iconic figure. Whispers rippled through the back of the club. He walked deliberately, calmly, towards the front, towards Frank O'Connell's table. Yoko, ever attuned to his moods, watched him go, a silent understanding passing between them. The entire club was now focused on John. Marcus Dixon, still on stage, watched with a mixture of confusion and apprehension. He had no idea who this man was or what he was about to do. John stopped directly at O'Connell's table. The racist, still smirking, oblivious to the gravity of the moment, looked up, annoyed by the interruption. "Can I help you, pal?" O'Connell slurred, his eyes narrowed. John leaned in, his voice low, but clear enough to carry in the now silent club. "You just insulted a brilliant musician," he said, now his tone devoid of anger, but laced with an unmistakable steel. "And you just humiliated yourself," O'Connell scoffed. "Who the hell are you to tell me what to do? I pay good money to be here. I can say what I want." John's eyes, usually warm and witty, were now cold, piercing. "No," he said, his voice rising slightly. "You can't. Not in a place where art is made. Not when you're spewing your ignorant hatred." The entire club held its breath. This wasn't a celebrity making a statement. This was John Lennon, the rebel, the truth-teller, confronting bigotry head on. O'Connell, finally realizing who he was dealing with, his drunken bravado faltering, tried to bluster. "I don't know who you think you are, but—" John cut him off, his voice now ringing through the club. "I'm John Lennon, and I'm telling you, you're out of line. You're disrespecting this artist, this music, and everyone in this room who came here to appreciate it." He then turned to the club owner, who had rushed over, his face pale with alarm. "Either this man leaves," John stated, his voice calm but firm, "or I do, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the one you want to lose tonight." The club owner, a seasoned veteran of the jazz scene, knew the power of John Lennon's presence. He knew the impact of his words. He looked at O'Connell, then back at John, a decision forming in his eyes. The show had stopped, but the real performance, the confrontation of prejudice, was just beginning. Frank O'Connell, his face now a mottled red, finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. He was being publicly called out by John Lennon in front of an entire club. His drunken bravado evaporated, replaced by a simmering resentment and a flash of fear. "You can't kick me out," he stammered, looking around for support, but finding none. The other patrons, initially stunned, were now nodding in agreement with John, their silent disapproval palpable. John, however, didn't engage in a shouting match. He simply stood his ground, his gaze unwavering. "This isn't about kicking you out," he said, his voice steady. "It's about respecting the art. It's about respecting the artist. And it's about respecting the people who came here to listen." The club owner, a man named Tony "the Tone" Moretti, stepped forward. Tony had seen it all in his decades running the Vanguard, but never a confrontation quite like this. He looked at O'Connell, then at John. "Mr. O'Connell," he said, his voice firm, "Mr. Lennon is right. We don't tolerate that kind of disrespect here. You need to leave." O'Connell, realizing he was utterly isolated, finally capitulated. He mumbled a few more incoherent protests, but the fight had gone out of him. He pushed his chair back, stumbled to his feet, and under the watchful eyes of everyone in the club, was escorted out by a bouncer. The door swung shut behind him, a final, definitive click. A collective sigh of relief swept through the club. The tension, which had been almost unbearable, finally broke. John Lennon then turned his attention to Marcus "Blue" Dixon, who was still standing on stage, his saxophone hanging loosely in his hand, his face a mixture of shock and gratitude. John offered a small, genuine smile. "Don't let the bastards get you down, mate," he called out, his voice now warm, reassuring. "Yes, your music is beautiful. Keep playing." He then walked back to his table, the applause starting softly, then building into a thunderous ovation. It wasn't just for John, though he certainly deserved it. It was for Marcus. It was for the music. It was for the principle of dignity upheld. Marcus Dixon, deeply moved, nodded, a tear tracing a path down his cheek. He raised his saxophone, took a deep breath, and began to play. The music that followed was transformed. It was imbued with a new depth, a new passion, a new sense of triumph. It was no longer just a performance. It was a statement, a testament to resilience, to the power of art, and to the unexpected solidarity found in the face of prejudice. John Lennon, the rock and roll icon, had not just stopped a show. He had stopped a moment of injustice. He had used his voice, his fame, and his unwavering conviction to defend a stranger, to uphold the sanctity of art, and to remind everyone in that room that some lines should never be crossed. The entire club, which had been frozen in uncomfortable silence, was now united in a shared moment of profound respect and renewed appreciation for the power of music and the courage of one man. The music flowed, richer, more vibrant than before. Marcus "Blue" Dixon played with a newfound fire, his saxophone singing a song of defiance and triumph. The audience, now fully engaged, listened with an almost reverent attention, each note a testament to the power of art over hatred. John Lennon, back at his table, watched Marcus, a quiet satisfaction in his eyes. He had done what he felt was right. He had used his platform, not for self-promotion, but for justice. The incident, and though brief, had fundamentally shifted the atmosphere of the club. The casual enjoyment had been replaced by a deeper appreciation, a collective understanding of the fragility of artistic expression in a world often marred by prejudice. The climax wasn't a dramatic fight or a grand speech. It was the quiet, unwavering conviction of John Lennon standing up for a stranger. It was the moment the music resumed, imbued with a new, profound meaning. It was the collective realization that silence in the face of bigotry is complicity. The club owner, Tony Moretti, later approached John's table, offering a silent nod of gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Lennon," he said, his voice sincere. "That took guts." John simply shrugged, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Someone had to say something, mate. That's what music's for, isn't it? I'd to speak the truth." The rest of the night was electric. Marcus Dixon's performance reached new heights, fueled by the unexpected support and the profound sense of vindication. The audience, having witnessed a rare moment of integrity, responded with an outpouring of genuine appreciation. The racist, Frank O'Connell, was a forgotten footnote. His attempt to humiliate had backfired spectacularly, instead highlighting the talent he sought to diminish and the courage he failed to comprehend. John Lennon, the man who had once sung about imagining a world without prejudice, had, in a small jazz club in New York, made that imagination a tangible reality, if only for a night. He had shown that true power wasn't in wealth or fame, but in the courage to stand up for what is right, to protect the vulnerable, and to let the music and the truth prevail. The entire stadium, which had been on the brink of chaos, was now united, not just by music, but by a shared experience of courage and defiance. John Lennon had done something that made everyone freeze, not in fear, but in the quiet awe of witnessing a true artist, a true activist, stand firm in the face of hatred. He had shown them that peace wasn't just a slogan, it was an act, a choice, a powerful, defiant response to aggression. The incident at the Village Vanguard, though not a front-page headline, became a legendary story within New York's jazz and music circles. It was a testament to John Lennon's character, a quiet act of defiance that spoke volumes about his unwavering commitment to justice. For Marcus "Blue" Dixon, that night was transformative, and John Lennon's intervention not only saved his performance, but also instilled in him a renewed sense of pride and validation. He went on to have a successful career, often citing that night as a pivotal moment, a reminder that his art mattered and that there were allies in the fight against prejudice. He never forgot the rock star who stood up for him. For John, the incident was a small but significant act of redemption during a tumultuous period in his life. It reminded him of his core purpose, his belief in using his voice for good, even when his personal life was in disarray. It was a moment of clarity, a reaffirmation of his identity as an activist and a champion of human dignity. The Village Vanguard, already a revered institution, gained another layer of legend. The story of John Lennon stopping the show to confront a racist became part of its rich tapestry, a reminder of the club's commitment to artistic freedom and respect. Frank O'Connell, the racist, was never seen in the Vanguard again. His act of bigotry was met with swift, decisive action, a clear message that such behavior would not be tolerated. The echoes of that night resonated not just in the lives of John and Marcus, but in the broader understanding of how individual acts of courage can make a difference. It showed that even in a world grappling with systemic racism, a single voice, amplified by conviction, could challenge prejudice and uphold the principles of equality. John Lennon, the rebel, the provocateur, had once again turned adversity into a moment of profound human connection. Now he had shown that true strength wasn't in fighting back with aggression, but in standing firm with dignity and letting the truth speak for itself. The scars were unseen, but the lesson was clear. Prejudice, when truly confronted, could be disarmed by courage and conviction. New York City, December 8, 1980. John Lennon was murdered. His voice silenced, but his legacy and the story of his unwavering commitment to justice continued to resonate. The incident at the Village Vanguard in 1973, though a quiet moment in the grand narrative of his life, became a powerful testament to his character. It revealed a man who, despite his own flaws and struggles, possessed an unshakable commitment to equality and a profound courage in the face of hatred. Yoko Ono, in the decades that followed, became the fierce guardian of John's legacy, ensuring his music and his message continued to reach the world. She continued her own artistic journey, her work finally receiving the critical recognition it deserved, a testament to her own resilience and vision. The story of the racist who humiliated a black musician and John Lennon's powerful response is not found in every official biography. It's a hidden truth, a whisper in the annals of rock and roll history. But for those who know it, it speaks volumes about the man John Lennon truly was. Not just a rock star, not just an activist, but a deeply courageous, profoundly committed human being who would not tolerate injustice. He didn't just stop the show, he transformed the entire club. He didn't just defy a hater, he reaffirmed his message of equality and respect in the most powerful way possible. And in doing so, he left an unseen ripple of change that slowly, subtly began to shift perceptions, proving that sometimes the most powerful statements are delivered not with anger, but with unwavering conviction and profound love for humanity. The smoke-filled Village Vanguard is long gone. The echoes of that night have faded into history. But the echo of John Lennon's defiance, his quiet courage, and his profound commitment to justice still resonates, a timeless reminder that true strength lies not in tolerating prejudice, but in confronting it and letting the symphony of justice play on. The official records of the Village Vanguard mention a minor disturbance that night, a footnote in history. But the true story isn't in the reports. It's in the memory of a split second, a silenced insult, a defiant stand, and the profound respect that followed. It's the end. If this story about courage, defiance, and the power of standing up against racism moved you, subscribe and hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear that true strength lies in upholding dignity and equality for all. What moment taught you the most about the power of confronting prejudice? Tell us in the comments below.